Let's climb into the Wayback Machine and take a little trip with me to another new art form, a charmingly extreme example of the first photograph. By the way, that is the first photograph. That's from 1826. It's an 8-hour exposure of the sky and some farm buildings. And who speaks French who can help me pronounce a name that is N-I-E accent, P-C-E? Let's say Niepce. Joseph Niepce. Somebody can, I heard somebody. Come on, I'm in Canada. Somebody speaks French. All right, I just slaughtered it, and you're laughing at me. Here was a brand new art form, as unprecedented, I think, as animation was. Nobody could imagine the ability to grab the actual physical world around you and put it into a picture. It must have seemed like a miracle. But it was greeted with a mix of distrust and downright outrage. In 1839, on viewing his first photograph, French academic painter, and here I go with French again, Paul Delaroche, declared, "From today, painting is dead." A newspaper report in a Leipzig city advisor stated, and I love this quote, I can't do a Leipzig accent, so any accent I always do, it always sounds like Kelsey Grammer. So, "The wish to capture the evanescent reflections is not only impossible, but the mere desire to do so, the will to do so, is blasphemy. God created man in his own image, and no man-made machine may fix the image of God. Is it possible that God should have abandoned his eternal principles and allowed a Frenchman to give the world the invention of the devil?" Isn't that great? That's a new art form. If greeted with abrasive distrust and disdain, we should, all of our art forms in this exhibit, hope to be greeted with such beautiful threats. But it is interesting to me. Photography threatened painting. Feature film threatened literature and theater. TV came along and threatened movie theaters. Video games threatened TV. Comic books threatened novels. It's not merely a marketplace. It's sort of an interesting cultural phenomenon. We even see anxiety, great anxiety, in my own community of animators as computer animation very genuinely threatens hand-drawn animation, and now computer keyframe animation is being threatened by motion capture animation. Perhaps these perceived or actual threats are only a specific response to the generalized threat of art. I believe it's true, again, that all art is essentially subversive, and we already took a look at the oldest art form of all, storytelling, and saw the danger it posed to the establishment. Now, that's not to say the storytelling isn't still under attack, and oftentimes from within. Telling a good story in Hollywood is really hard. Aristotle, God, I hit you with Plato, now it's Aristotle. Aristotle defined narrative in his work, The Poetics, with such precision and insight that his observations still absolutely rule in the world of feature film. Foremost is plot, the structure, the actual twist and turn of event that keeps a story going. Second is character. Then the theme. What is it about? What is the character searching for? Dialogue. Finally ending with melody and spectacle. Of course, in Hollywood, the king of story philosophy isn't really Aristotle. It's, of course, Michael Bay. And he actually uses the exact same elements, but he just takes a completely inverse order on it. Spectacle, blow stuff up. Melody, blow stuff up to Aerosmith tunes. Theme, blow stuff up to Aerosmith tunes while might makes right. 4, have a character declare, "I'm getting too old for this," as stuff blows up to Aerosmith, which you get my idea. And I say this somewhat facetiously, obviously, but it is very challenging when you're working in a popular art form, a commercial art form. How do you disguise your personal message in an appetizing commercial package? Knowing and experiencing firsthand the various marketplace pressures exerted on a film, I find it especially miraculous, frankly, that so many are so good. We can all point to favorite, beautiful, emotional moments in film. In fact, I would argue that those of us who've lived in the 20th and 21st century, some of the most important moments where we learn things about our culture and our lives have come to this brilliant filmmaking. So in spite of the drive and push towards the spectacularly melodious, we seem to somehow still, in the best of work that comes out of even commercialized Hollywood, to be doing a good job on it. The challenge facing animation today, and I would argue all visual arts, can best be summed up by a phrase I heard while making Over the Hedge. We were working with Ben Folds, singer-songwriter. I'm a huge fan of Ben's, and even more so having worked with him. And we reached an impasse where the producer of the film was really feeling like what Ben was writing was too quirky and wasn't sort of successfully supporting what was going on in the picture. And she actually sat Ben down and said, I just think that part of the song sounds wrong. And Ben said something that has since become my mantra. Ben goes, exactly. That idea has just exactly the right amount of wrong in it. I can't think of a better challenge that states what our goal is, especially as artists in a commercial world. We always are trying to have exactly the right amount of wrong in our animation. Nothing that turns it into pablum, but nothing that turns it into something so aesthetically distant that an audience can't embrace it. It really was an epiphany for me. I hope that those of you who are expecting a rather scholarly historical perspective on the art of animation will forgive my talk here today. Instead of valuable facts, I've given you some odd little personal perspectives on the mind of an animator, some behind-the-scenes glimpses into the practical process of animation in the movies, and a little, personal diatribe about the politics of animation and art in the marketplace. Let me conclude today with a quote from an amazing book called The User Illusion by Tor Noretranders. Boy, I hope my Norwegian's better than my French. The bandwidth of language is far lower than the bandwidth of sensation. Most of what we know about the world, we can never tell each other. The truth is, I agree with Mr. Noretranders about language in specific, but as a visual artist and animator, I strongly disagree with him on the broader point of sharing and communicating. While words might often fail us, animation and all of my co-curators' choices throughout the exhibit, all of our narrative arts, these speak to us with much more than words. Words may fail us, but art never does. Thank you. I think and hope there's time for some questions and answers. Is that true? And I think that there are going to be people helping out with a microphone if you'd like to grill me.
What scene would you suggest I would make for my movie and put it on the script? I mean, I'm already writing the script right now, but what scene would you suggest I put in the movie?
Well, it's hard, obviously, for me to answer, but I'll answer this. There's a moment in writing your story in script form or even in outline, as you think about the structure of a story, there's a moment that I think you will find, and you probably are already there or you will do it as you explore it, where the movie begins to tell you what it wants. And that sounds kind of spooky and a little mystical, but I mean it quite sincerely. When you're thinking of your story and the journey these boys are going to go on, I can tell you right now from just the pitch you gave me, the scene I want to see is where they make that discovery. That's a huge discovery. What an emotional and yet comedic discovery. For me, finding those tentpole scenes, I think your question's a very good one because as a filmmaker, finding those scenes, and there's sometimes only 2 or 3 of them in a movie, that really make a statement about it. Those are the hardest scenes to do, the ones you redo again and again and again, the scenes that you love and the reason you're making the movie, and that often means they're the ones you should start on right away so that you get all those bad versions out of the way as soon as possible. Good luck with the movie.
Thank you. And one more thing before you go.
You know what? I'm going to hang out afterwards, and there's a lot of folks wanting to ask questions, so I'll answer another question with you afterwards, okay?
Thank you.
You bet.